In this video, I will introduce you to all the versions of Godzilla that have existed until today, from the 1954 Toho's Godzilla to the 2023 Godzilla from Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. So come with me until the end of this video, because there are Godzilla versions you've never heard of. Welcome to the Nerds Insights channel. Today we will explore the incredible journey of the iconic Japanese monster Gojira and all of its versions. From its first appearance in 1954 to the most recent versions in 2023, I'll discuss all the different eras and their differences, and in the end, we might even determine the strongest Godzilla of all time. So make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. This is an informative channel, and whenever there's something new in the nerd world, I'll be here to bring it to you. Let's get started. Showa era. The Showa era of Godzilla refers to the period when the classic Godzilla films were produced and released in Japan. This era covers the first Godzilla film, released in 1954, to Terror of Mechagodzilla in 1975. Totaling 15 films, the Showa era of Godzilla can be divided into several distinct phases. It all began with the 1954 Godzilla, a masterpiece of Japanese cinema that portrayed Godzilla as a terrifying and destructive atomic creature. Created as a result of nuclear testing by humans, the film addressed issues of nuclear threats and their devastating effects. Between 1955 and 1968, Godzilla became an iconic figure and cultural symbol in Japan. The creature appeared in various films, battling other monsters like Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. Among others, these movies were more geared towards a younger audience and featured a lighter and sometimes humorous tone, with colorful sets and epic battles. From 1969 to 1975, there was a phase of darker films. During this period, the series moved away from the lighter tone and returned to addressing more serious themes. Films like All Monsters Attack in 1969 and Godzilla vs. Hedorah in 1971 conveyed ecological and environmental messages, warning about the dangers of pollution and environmental destruction. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in 1974 and Terror of Mechagodzilla in 1975 marked the end of the Showa era and reintroduced the concept of Mechagodzilla, a robotic version of Godzilla. As one of the main antagonists, the battle between the two monsters was highly popular among fans and left a lasting mark on the franchise. The special effects in the Showa-era films may appear outdated by today's standards, but at the time they were considered innovative and revolutionary, significantly influencing the genre of Japanese monster movies known as kaiju eiga. Heisei era. The Heisei era of Godzilla is the second phase of the Godzilla film franchise produced in Japan, following the Showa era. This era covers the films released between 1984 and 1995, totaling 7 films. The name Heisei refers to the Japanese calendar era during which these films were produced, with the beginning marked by the film The Return of Godzilla, also known as Godzilla 1985. Unlike the Showa era, which had a loosely connected continuity between most films, the Heisei era introduced a continuous narrative. With the films following a timeline and interconnected events, The Return of Godzilla completely ignored all the Showa era films after the original 1954 one, serving as a direct sequel. In this era, Godzilla was already twice the size of the Showa-era Gojira, reaching a height of 330 feet, and it was during this time that Godzilla began using its blue atomic breath. Some notable films from the Heisei era of Godzilla include The Return of Godzilla, 1984, Godzilla v. Biollante, 1989, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, 1991, Godzilla vs. Mothra, 1992, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, 1993, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, 1994, and Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, 1995. It's also worth mentioning Zilla from 1998, which wasn't as well received but is a version of Gojira that deserves to be mentioned here. The Heisei era was well received by both the audience and critics, as it brought a more sophisticated approach to the Godzilla franchise. The films in this era helped maintain the interest and appeal of the iconic Japanese monster, paving the way for future iterations of the franchise. Millennium era. The Millennium era of Godzilla is the third phase of the Godzilla film franchise produced in Japan, following the Heisei era. This era includes films released between 1999 and 2004, as well as one film released in 2016, totaling 6 films. The name Millennium refers to the period during which these films were produced. Coinciding with the turn of the millennium, this Godzilla was smaller than the previous one, standing at 180 feet tall, and this version could even spit fireballs, which was a novelty. Some films from the Millennium era of Godzilla include Godzilla 2000 Millennium in 1999, Godzilla Mothra and King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All-Out Attack in 2001, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla in 2002, Godzilla Tokyo SOS in 2003, and Godzilla Final Wars in 2004. Some fans and critics considered this phase less cohesive in terms of continuity and narrative compared to the Heisei era, especially since in this era, they fought against aliens. However, this non-linear approach allowed for more experimentation and creative freedom for filmmakers to explore different ideas and concepts related to Godzilla and the kaiju eiga genre in general. Reiwa era. The Reiwa era brought a new approach to the Godzilla universe, adding complexity and depth to the characters and stories, while still paying homage to the rich tradition of the franchise like the Millennium era. The Reiwa era also features films that do not follow a strict continuity, allowing filmmakers to create new stories and approaches for Godzilla. Shin Godzilla in 2016 was the first film of this era, which we are currently in. It is also known as Godzilla Resurgence outside of Japan. It is a complete reboot of the franchise, disregarding the events of previous films, and presents a more realistic and political approach to the character of Godzilla. Then we had Godzilla Monster Planet in 2017, which is the first animated film of the Reiwa era and part of a trilogy titled Godzilla Trilogy. Lastly, Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle in 2018 is the direct sequel to Godzilla Monster Planet, also part of the Godzilla Trilogy. It's worth mentioning Godzilla -1 as well, a film set to premiere on December 1st in Japan, with no date yet for its release in Western cinemas. Monsterverse era. The Monsterverse era was created by Legendary Entertainment in collaboration with Warner Brothers, Pictures and Toho Company, the rights holder of Godzilla in Japan. This partnership allowed for the creation of a shared universe, bringing together two beloved monsters from pop culture in exciting action and fantasy films. The Monsterverse era presents a completely new shared universe of Godzilla, different from the Japanese stories portraying Godzilla as an anti-hero instead of a force of nature. The film Godzilla in 2014 served as the starting point for the Monsterverse. It acted as a reboot for the Godzilla character and established a more serious and realistic tone for the franchise, following the successful approach of the film Shin Godzilla, released in 2016 in Japan. Godzilla King of the Monsters in 2019 was the third film in the Monsterverse. In this film, Godzilla faces his classic adversary, King Ghidorah, and the movie also features Mothra and Rodan in battles that captivated monster fans. Godzilla vs. Kong in 2021 was a highly anticipated film, presenting the epic clash between Godzilla and Kong, two of the most iconic monsters in cinema history. The movie delivered spectacular action and thrilling battles between the giant titans, and it also brought back Mechagodzilla, Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, the most awaited film of the Monsterverse to date. We'll see Godzilla and Kong team up again to face an even greater hidden threat in the Hollow Earth. Knowing all the eras and versions of Godzilla, it's very difficult to decide which one is the most powerful. After analyzing the main characteristics of all the versions, I came to the conclusion that the Monsterverse version, specifically the nuclear Godzilla from 2019, was the most powerful so far. However, I could be wrong since we haven't seen Godzilla -1 in action yet, or even Godzilla Earth might be stronger. But I prefer to leave this discussion to you. So comment below, which Godzilla do you think is the strongest of all time? And provide a valid argument, okay? And of course, my friend, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It's great to be here every day, keeping you informed, and that's why I need your presence here. Take care, and see you next time.